We're doing a video on the 1960 Impala that I just drove 2,500 miles from New Jersey to Tucson, Arizona. I want to do sort of like an assessment video slash do some fixes on stuff that I didn't fix or that I couldn't fix on the road, maybe assess the rust damage. I want to fix the tail lights. I want to see why the bearing on the rear driver's side tire was getting hot. Rim and the backing plate was just radiating heat. Maybe we can figure out why the wipers weren't working. The carburetor is running rough even though I've had it apart twice. Let's see what we can do about some of that. Hear it? Listen. This is idle, but if I give it some gas, listen how it picks up. Put it in gear. Dies at idle almost, shakes a lot. It's idling crappy. I don't want to take the carburetor off again. I will if I have to, but there's a few things that I can check before I resort to that. I can check the dwell on the points. I can set the timing. I did put new points in it. I only set them very crudely. I didn't set them exactly how they need to be set. And I have this tool right here. It's a really old school tool that's gonna actually measure the dwell in degrees. The vacuum advance isn't hooked up, and there's also a vacuum that goes down to the transmission that's not hooked up. The transmission doesn't change how the motor runs, but it corrects the shift point basically. This is an old diagnostic tool. Dwell is set in degrees. If you look at that, you can see 40, 30, 20, 10 degrees. It should be at 30 degrees dwell. You hook the positive to the negative side of the coil and the negative to the negative on the car. How you adjust the dwell is GM has this cute little door right there on the distributor. You see that door that leads into a black abyss? And you can actually adjust the points while the car is running, which is pretty cool. We're at 30 degrees exactly. So when I turn that key with this Allen head, watch the degrees change. Alright, so I'm turning it in. See how it went above 30? Turning it in more. I'm going to crank it out. We're closer to 30. We're at pretty much 30. I never did hook up the vacuum advance. Watch, I'll show you here. I was gonna buy a new one from AutoZone or O'Reilly. It was like $33. I thought, well, I'll just test mine. And when I suck on the end of this hose, check it out. See that? That thing's working. There you go. There's a T right here, and the T off goes to the vacuum advance and to, see that stem? That stem goes down to the transmission. So we'll hook both of those up, and we'll start it up and see where our timing's at and play with that a little bit. So we're not even showing the mark. I hooked the vacuum advance up and I hooked the hose that goes down to the transmission. Also did the timing, did the dwell, tried to adjust the carburetor a little more. So it's the next day now. I took this over to my dad's last night. We were fiddling with it, and I think we got it pretty good now. So let's listen to it. Starts up really nice, sounds really good, no misses anymore. Listen to that. She's running like a Swiss watch now. Messed around with the carburetor, messed around with the timing, took all the spark plugs out yesterday, gapped them right, cleaned them, and don't gotta take the carburetor off. I'm satisfied with the way it runs now. Sounds, I mean, really perfect. Not even vibrating, nothing at all. You could balance a friggin' nickel on that thing. We're gonna move on from this now, and I'm gonna move on to this back bearing, okay? Okay. If you'll remember during the driving part, every night I would stop, that driver's side hub and backing plate and tire was radiating heat. The passenger side was not. But the bearing never made noise. It never gave out. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to replace it or not, but I would like to get a good look at it, because if one side's getting hot and the other side's not, something's up. It's real easy. So there's 4 bolts that hold this axle on to the backing plate, and they all came off, to my great jubilee. Oh, it's coming out easier than I thought it was gonna. I'll just kind of get that. There we go. That wasn't too terrible bad, to be honest. So here's the bearing, and honestly, it's not in bad shape. It's not making any noise. It's not wobbly. You know, I can't hear anything grinding in there. So watch closely, because I'm gonna pull what you would call a tactic. It made it 2,500 miles that way, and only after 600 miles a day was it getting warm. So, you know, driving just around town, it'll be fine. So what I'm gonna do to help this thing out, I'm not going to replace this, because you're just going to dig yourself into a deeper hole. This is a grease fitting that's a needle. Just lift the lip of this up, not poke a hole in it. I'll grease the inside of this bearing. 1 pump, 2 pumps. All right, gave her almost 3 pumps. I want to move on now to the wiper motor. I got a lot of comments on the drive saying, oh, you didn't make the wipers work? Why didn't you just make the wipers work? Just making the wipers work. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Once these things get stuck, these wiper motors, you can't just put power to them. And earlier I jumped it with my test lead and it just sparked, you know. And since this is directly vertical to all weather, it rains, it sleets, tree leaves get down in here and it seizes them up. You can't put a socket on these. You have to get them with something, and I'm just using snap rings. There's a notch on either side of this, and if you're suave enough, you can get them loose with some snap rings. Can't believe I got that on the first try. So then they'll come loose along with those screws, and you can take this cover off and get to the wiper motor stuff. What am I missing? There we go. So I know it's hard to see, but there's 4 bolts that hold this motor in. 2 of them I got loose. The other 2 I had to drill out and tap. But I want to get this arm off. This is the arm that swings around to move the wipers, and there's a nut on it, and I got to heat it up and get it loose. Hey. Filming? Yeah.
What are you doing?
Trying to heat this bolt up.
That's white hot.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get in front of that one. Once she gets nice and hot, we'll crack her. Easy peasy. Man, it smells like fajitas. Came off. what a menagerie that thing is. Train going by, sorry, but so this is it. It's a pretty high dollar little motor. I don't know what these are if you wanted to buy one on eBay, but it's a 2-speed. Some of them came with a single speed, and not only is it a 2-speed, but see, I was wondering how that vacuum water squirter on the window worked. That's an option. And there's no port on the motor, you know, on the intake that runs any of that vacuum stuff. So I was like, okay, I didn't know how that windshield washer fluid stuff worked. Whatever it's doing to pull the vacuum is probably going on right here. But yeah, I want to dig into this, get this thing working, and maybe even the windshield washer fluid might work if we're lucky. Right now I'm going to put this cowl back on, set it on, maybe put one screw in it. I'm going to take this thing to her very first car show since she's been back in Tucson. Finally put the hubcaps on it, and I never did clean up these white walls. You know how when they come, they have that blue film on them? I never did clean that. I just was so busy trying to get out of New Jersey that I just ran with it, but look at those white walls shine like a brand new penny. That's a nice looking car, man. Oh yeah, with the fresh hubcaps and the white walls all shined up and everything. She is looking car show ready. There's a weekly cruise-in / car show. It's at a chain called Freddy's Steak Burgers. A lot of people in the Midwest probably know that chain. Well, when that Freddy's opened, we started having this car show there. So every car I've ever had, I drive there. This is my wife, Emily.
I like the car's dash. It's very futuristic. It's very space age. And it's your favorite color of teal.
This is probably my favorite color they had in 59 and 60. I think it's called Tasco Turquoise.
Yeah, just the way that everything's shaped, like the lines, and very space agey. Like the Jetsons.
Like the Jetsons?
Yeah, just like the Jetsons. I like it. Some of the trucks and cars that Travis has brought home, when we ride in them, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they ride like a log wagon.
This is nice. It's like riding in a couch.
And this is our other friend Jerry's car. He makes some cool stuff. He's really into rat rods. He fabricates all these, the bars and the framing, builds his own motors, does his own decals. He puts all this stuff together himself, fabricates it, or if he finds it, all this roll cage, and he uses this stuff. Yeah, it's no trailer queen, he uses it. I think these taillights are off of some 50s car. I don't know exactly what, but I love the pinstriping is cool. I like pinstriping. Let's go eat. Notice anything different about this? It's friggin' suicide doors. They didn't come from the factory like that. I wonder how much work it took to put the hinges on the other side of that thing.
It's like ketchup and mustard.
Emily said it's like ketchup and mustard. They go good together forever and ever, right? 257 Chevy Bel Airs.
Like peas and carrots.
Like peas and carrots. Our crew of everyone we hang out with every week, everybody loves a good steak burger from Freddy's though. Okay, so it's the next day. We have this wiper motor off, and I want to be careful with this because these are not cheap. It's all complete, and I just want to make it work. I want to make this thing work. Over here we have the connectors. So these right here are for the wiper or washer fluid accessory. These right here are for your wiper motor functions. And when I hook power up to them, nothing happens. You can see a little bit of sparks coming off, but like this thing is froze up, and I'm sure we can get it working again. I can hear the motor in there. Like it's trying, but it's stuck. That's all there is to it. Hey. Oh, where'd you get? Dad brought me a lens for my tail light. Where you found it somewhere? Hey.
I had an extra.
All right. All right, so tell me what you know about these things.
Oh, that's a little different. Boy, it's greased up good.
Yeah, so you're saying this big gear?
That's the one that was stuck in both of my cars.
This is the wiper motor function, the washer fluid?
That's what pumps it. They never worked.
Yeah.
No. You can buy the kit to rebuild them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a little piston in there that it just sucks it and spits it.
So this Phillips head is not coming out and it's starting to round off. I cannot get it out no matter what size Phillips I put on it. Instead of rounding it out, I'm just going to make it a flat head. That was ridiculous. I don't want to have to do that again. What a little complex machine. Yeah, that grease is hardened up. I wonder if I touch that motor, if it'll spin now. I've never taken one of these apart, and I don't know if I would want to again. This is really complicated. So it was kind of cool when I popped the cap off of this washer fluid pump assembly. You can still see old crystallized washer fluid. Alright, so it's the next day, and I was able to put most of this motor back together. I took all of this apart. I put grease in it. This worm gear works. I was able to get the 2 speeds out of it. All this should be working now. The only thing I have to fix is that washer sprayer section of this working, but the gear is stuck. I can't get it unstuck, so we'll have to revisit that in a second. We'll move on for now, but I will get it straightened out. These selector knobs do move, but if you look under here, these cables are loose. See that? I'm going to put these back in their holders, tighten them down, and we'll see if we have the functions. Because what happens is after so much time, these will sort of get rusted inside here, and then they won't move. So we'll see if they move. Alright, so they're back in their placeholders now. You can see this one. And we turn our fan on. You can feel a little bit of air coming out here, but not really. And then when you turn the air on, you can hear how it changes, and you can feel a lot more air coming out of there. I guess this is the heater door where, like, you know, you can either take the heat coming off the heater core or not. And then if you press this one down, your defrosters come on. I can feel the air coming out. And then if you lift it up, it comes out the bottom. And then another thing that is really cool that I noticed, there you go. The little lights work that shine green on the knobs to show you what you're choosing at night. Well, we're doing pretty good. All of our gauges work except the clock. And the radio, when I first got the car and I'd turn it on, I could hear the speaker pop, but I can't hear the speaker pop anymore. So I don't know if we lost power or what. But even so, the antenna is ripped off, so we're not really going to get, well, I mean, you might get a little bit of reception, but I don't even hear the speaker pop. So I think I lost power, and I don't see the light come on either. Even if the radio doesn't work, you should still get the light to show that, hey, you know, I got power, but I'm getting nothing. Alright, so I got the clock out, and I mean, these really aren't made to be serviced, but we're going to do it anyway. What happens is those gears just get stuck, you know. So this is crimped on the housing, so you gotta sort of get in there and uncrimp it. There it is. For 1960, this is a very complicated little machine. I mean, it's like literally a real clock in there. I got a toothpick here. Lube up these gears. So I got the clock working. She's sitting here doing her thing. Little gears in there are moving. It just needed a little bit of lube, and this gear right here needed a little bit of convincing. That is the spring gear that drives the rest of everything. See how it stopped? Yeah, it might need a spritz of electricity. They get 1 spritz of electricity every 15 minutes to rewind the spring. So this will move and ratchet up and create spring tension, and then the clock will use the spring tension and wear it down, and then when the contacts close again, it gets a little spritz of electricity to rewind that clock, and it just sits there and rewinds all the time. And this right here, you'll see it. I'll show you if it'll do it. Once the spring tension wears down, set of contacts close right there. It just resprung it right there. There it is again. So here's like a time lapse of it working. You can see the clock ticking, but you can see that gear there constantly spinning, wearing down the spring tension, and that bar right there in the back is sort of going back to its original position. And once it gets back to its original position, which is like all the way down, set of contacts close, giving it power, re-ratcheting up the spring tension so that gear in the front can keep on using it constantly. So if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, recently I did a fly and drive in a 91 Cummins from Iowa to Arizona, and I sold the truck, and I think the boys are here now to pick it up. Oh gosh! What? I don't know. We have to try it. Well, I sold the 91 that I did the first fly and drive in, the one from Iowa to Arizona. Sold it to some boys out in California. They're going to take the drivetrain out for a crew cab swap, which is kind of what I figured would happen. This truck is really beyond saving, even though I am a purist myself. I love saving everything I can. You're just not going to save all of this, you know what I mean? So, yeah, at least the drivetrain, the four-wheel drive, that'll all live on. Check out this setup though. This is a nice rig. Ram 3500, big old dually crew cab. I like it, man. I dig the setup. What year's the crew cab?
Huh?
What year's the crew cab that you're gonna put?
74.
74 crew cab.
California smog exempt.
Smog exempt. Don't you love that?
Gotta love it.
They're back off to Riverside, California. Another 7-hour drive back. Well, she was fun while she lasted, man. It's a good truck right there. Anyway, back to the clock situation. Since I think I got it fixed now and it's lubed up as good as it's going to get, I'm going to stick it back together, put the ring around the front of it, you know, the little decorative case, and yeah, we'll put it back in when we're ready. But this is the coolest part. So it's all together, looks good. The back is my favorite part, where you can see the factory stampings where, you know, it says made in USA. And what's cool is you can see who it was made by. West Clocks of LaSalle, Illinois. West Clocks actually made clocks for houses, like plug-in clocks and stuff. And you can see that factory 59 stamping. It was probably made in 59 for the 60 model year. All right, so now that we got the clock done, I've been working on the radio because the radio wasn't working. So the speaker is up there, and I took the speaker out. And this is the speaker that was in it. Just, you know, you're never going to get anything out of that. So cut the wires off, and I have a new speaker, and I'm using the original pigtail. So I got that wired up, and I also put a new antenna on it because the old one was broke off. This is the original one. It's nice and stout. I wish they didn't break the antenna right off the base of it, but renders it pretty much useless. And I had to modify it a little bit. You can see here these grind marks. This plastic base was really high, so I had to grind it down, and I also had to grind off some of the edges of this mount, like it was protruding like that, because it sits in the top of this. It just goes right up on top and sits in that holder, and it wouldn't fit. The grate was sitting, you know, up too high, and you got to get the threads down in there to get the nuts on and all that. So I had to shallow it up and knock some of this edge off to get the speaker to fit. just like that. Hear that? I hear it. Listen. I got the volume all the way up and it's really faint still. So I'm gonna back out and raise the antenna up and see if we can get better reception, because these AM radios, they get real bad reception under awnings and bridges. Give her the best chance possible. Put her all the way up to the sky. Yeah, it's working. Really quiet. Maybe I give a little tap or something, I don't know. Does that work on these? Back in the day, you're just supposed to hit everything. So either way, I'm pretty sure I got the radio as good as we're gonna get it without sending it off to be rebuilt. I think we can move on to the next problem. So now I'm working on the dome lights because I want those to work, and I put new bulbs in them. The old ones, the filaments were burnt out, I could see them, and this wasn't doing anything. This is your little thing that whenever you open the door, this button pops out, you know. It's got a bad ground because when you wiggle it, oh, there we go. So they do work, but there's just a bad ground around this thing right here. And remember earlier how I said I had to bootleg power with that white wire from one fuse to another to get my brake lights to work? Well, I guess that fuse also controls the dome lights, because I gotta have my key on for my dome lights to work. It's got key on power. So I really got to figure out that electric power situation, because that is supposed to have power even when the key's off. That's supposed to have always power. And a conclusion on the radio, so I said how it played really dim and really quiet even at full volume. There's a guy I know called Bill the Radio Guy. If you ever need a old radio rebuilt by him, like a car radio, get a hold of Bill the Radio Guy. He's done a few radios for me and my dad. He'll rebuild your factory radio and put modern internals in it. So like you'll have FM, AM, and you can plug your phone in to your original radio, so it looks all factory. He's really good. And I said, hey, you know, this is an original radio, plays really dim even at full volume, like full reception, everything. And he's like, radio's just old, something with the audio output. He's like, it's just what it is, you know, parts go bad in them. There's nothing you can do about it. I got two options. I could either, you know, live with it being a little quiet, or I could spend, you know, a shekel or two having him rebuild it and make it perfect and all that. But, you know, I think I'll just live with it being quiet. Okay, at least it works. So now I'm moving on to the speedometer while I have kind of the dasher part fixing the clock and whatnot, because the speedometer was screeching really bad when I first started driving this in New Jersey, and the speedometer needle was doing all kinds of crazy things. So I'm going to take it apart, lube it up, see if I can, you know, get it working again. And if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this type of content. All right, guys. Well, I think we've ran into the first thing that I just don't think I'm going to be able to reconcile, and that is the speedometer. Before I unhooked this speedometer back in New Jersey, if you'll remember, this thing was screeching, making all kinds of noise, and what I remember is this needle, it was going, and then it would just keep going, and keep going, and keep going, and it was just doing all kinds of wild stuff. Well, it had some ramifications back here in this little area. Let me see if I can show you. See that spring right there? There's that copper rod, and then there's that spring. That spring got really messed up, and it lost its factory setting basically. You can sort of see from here, I'm turning the needle, and you can see how that spring in there is see it? How it's all messed up. I don't think I'm gonna be able to fix that, because when I turn this, the odometer does count, so the odometer works, but I don't think we're going to have a working speedometer, guys. So I'm going to wait to put the speedometer head in and the clock in until I get my new headlight switch, because there's an orange wire that's supposed to always get power, that powers the clock, that powers the dome lights, that powers the glove box light, and I figured out my electrical problem was the headlight switch. That's why I have to bootleg power from another fuse, and I'm only getting key on power. So, but moving on to the back. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what I'm going to do with the rust in the trunk and the rust in the right rear floorboard. There's nothing left of the trunk whatsoever, and there's nothing left of the right rear floor, although all the other floors are solid. That one is gone for some reason. Although the rest of the car, the rear quarters are there, the rockers are there, the doors are there, the fenders are there, the outside of the body is like pretty clean bean. It's just the trunk and that rear floor got absolutely obliterated. I don't know why. And although it does need a trunk and a floor, I'm just not the guy to do it right now. Because the trunk comes in 4 pieces. A left side, a right side, a center, and the right side is on back order, by the way, for a month at least, and a rear long section up by where the trunk latch is. So there's 4 pieces to the trunk. Also that right rear floor I can order, but that's over $1,000. Like I said, the right rear is on back order for a month. I wouldn't even get it. So it would take me over a month to do this, over $1,000. It's just not in the cards right now for me to do all that. But what I am gonna do to make this car a little more usable instead of having the gas tank in the trunk is I'm gonna drain the gas tank out. I am going to weld that split shut where it broke when I was on the road. Trunk was rusted and it was sagging down, but the neck is supported on the frame. So since the neck is supported and the tank is trying to come down, that fulcrum point tore it a little bit. So I'm gonna weld that back up, put the tank back up in there, strap it up factory, but I'm gonna run an actual ratchet strap on the frame to support it underneath so it's not falling down, because the frame is fine. Now thinking back on it, I should have just done that from the start. You know, if I would have been thinking before I left New Jersey, I could have just, you know, I knew that it was a little iffy and I could have just ran a strap on it. Alright, so the gas tank is welded. I know it doesn't look pretty, but you know, it's whatever. It'll hold. And so I can't put the gas tank in until I get my sending unit, which is coming in the mail. So we'll move on for now. I ordered these clips and they're coming in the mail. These right here are what adjust your headlights. There's 2 screws that go in here, and when you adjust them, it moves your headlights, and they're broke. So my headlights are pointing all kinds of crazy directions, and these plastic pieces, you know, they get brittle over time, they break, they bust. Even though I don't have the clips in the mail yet, I can still go ahead and drill these old pop rivets out so that it's all nice, clean, and ready for the new clips when they do come in the mail. And I can move on to something else in the meantime. Alright, so I want to just continue to be as delicate as I can with this. Before I put it on and it's gone forever, you can see right there where it says Delco Appliance, Rochester, New York, made in USA, right there at the bottom. The only reason this beast will live again is because of those words, made in USA. Let's see, I think it's pointed this way, yeah. Come on. Got one in. Oh man, this thing is really heavy. Got my arms hooked up and everything, so I'm gonna hook the battery up and I'm gonna try the switch and we'll see if it works. Nothing. Oh, wait. Maybe if I do key on power. It's going. It's working. I see it. Speed number 2. Oh. Yeah. Yes. Successful surgery, dude. That's awesome. Before I turn it off, the special thing about these wipers in general is that when you turn it off, it's not supposed to just turn off wherever you turn it off, right? Because you notice how whatever position you turn your wipers off in, they always go back down to their original position. So there's mechanisms in there that are supposed to turn it off when it's down at its original position and not just stop wherever you shut it off at. So let's see if it does that. So hold on. Off. Perfect. It works absolutely perfect. And I don't have any water hooked up to my my wiper, but maybe I can hear it work. I'm scared of them. I heard it working. So this is the original washer fluid bottle, and I'm gonna reuse it, but it has like a tear right here. I don't know if you can see right here. There's a crack in it, but other than that, I mean, it's usable. You can actually see this dust right here. This is old washer fluid, so it's kind of cool. So I got some of this seal all. It's like gas tank sealer, plastic sealer from O'Reilly's, and I don't know, we'll see what it does. We'll see if it works, because yeah, all the other options for the washer fluid bottles are hokey. They kind of look hokey in my opinion. I like the original, looks good, but then again, I am a purist. I like everything original, so we'll just, you know, kind of wipe it down, squirt some of it on there. Ooh, it's kind of liquidy. Kind of wipe it in there, you know what I mean? There we go. And I also got some new hose right here to redo the rubber hoses that carry the water to the little tiny washer nozzles. So while that's drying, I'll go ahead and put these new hoses on, and we'll see if it actually squirts water. And the reason I'm so excited to make this work is because if you go on eBay and look at what a core one of these is, a core that doesn't work, a non-known good that you gotta restore, is $320 to $350. And a remanufactured one, like one someone's taken apart, made working, all that, is at least 600 bucks. So this little item right here, working in good working order, is at least a $600 item, which is insane. You're definitely about to try this. I'm excited, and Dad wants to come over too. He's like, he's all jazzed up about it.
Might want to turn it upside down and pour some water in it.
Yeah, I can just trying. Ah, it's trying. See it? Hold on. It ain't working. Yeah, I need those new rubbers. So I just got through running the spark plug wires in the factory way. If you remember when I was on the road, I had to take a couple of them off and put a few on, and it was kind of ran all hokey, so I ran them underneath. These things are wired crazy. They're wired underneath the manifolds, underneath the engine mounts, up through everything. So now they look all neat, nice, slicked back where they should be, underneath the frickin' motor mounts, man. Ridiculous, but it looks good. So the next thing I want to move on to is this heater core, which I'm not looking forward to, because if you remember when I was on the road, it was the first problem I had. I put a new radiator cap on it, which, you know, held more pressure. You know, it was a new cap, and since it held more pressure in, the heater core gave way and started dripping. So I had to take the heater lines off and plug it with a 1/2 inch extension. Now we're gonna have to deal with the ramifications of that. It can't be much. I'm gonna undo it. I'm hoping it comes out from the front like that. So this thing is about to come out. It's friggin' hooked to everything on the car, and I'm trying not to break those defroster hoses because they're really delicate and they're original and they're in place. So I kind of got them loosened up on the pipes that come out of the heater. So I'm trying to be easy with it. I've taken out 10,000 screws. There can't be nothing else holding it in there. I got my pry bar on it, but good Lord. Oh my gosh. So now it's about to fall out, like literally, so. Okay, all in one piece, real easy. Let's get out of here. There she is. Let's set her on the trunk or something. Good Lord. All right, so here's your heater core. It's like a little mini radiator. Look at this. Approved inspection 144. That's pretty cool. Factory inspection sticker. This car is truly unmolested, never been apart. I love this car. This is so cool. Every more and more I dig into this car, more I like it. You have your heater control valve in there. It's hard to see, but you pull a knob on your dash and it changes that heater control valve to dump more or less heat into the heater core to control your heat. How well they worked, I don't know. I mean, I guess they worked, but I don't know how well they really worked. Prying it up out of there. Seeing if it works. There we go, boys. Finally, now we can try and see where this thing was leaking. How does this come out of its little cradle or what? I don't know. This right here is like a thermostat. This is like what you would see on a refrigerator but instead of regulating cold, it regulates warmth. So this is like a thermostatically controlled heater control valve. And let me tell you something. This bulb right here, you don't want to break. I sure did create a lot of work for myself putting a new radiator cap on this thing. So many intricate pieces to break. I have this heater core submerged in water. This is the tricky thing about these, where if you put it in and hook it up, you'll think you're golden, right? But sometimes they'll only leak hot or under pressure, because when the system gets warm it pressurizes. So if I'm putting air through this, you'll watch right here. Not a lot. Then when the car gets warm, there's more pressure. See those bubbles? There's your leak. But then when the pressure goes down, no more leak. You have to simulate it actually being, warm in the car. Oh, I think we have another leak. There's a leak over here now too. It's somewhere right there. I'm gonna clean it up with some muriatic acid just to get all the contaminants out. You can hear it boiling. Wipe some flux on there. So there's where I soldered it. It's not the prettiest, but if it holds, it holds. Not getting any bubbles anywhere, so I'm happy with that. I like to fix all this factory stuff if I can, because most of it's fixable, and one, it's very expensive to replace, just like this heater core right here. You can go buy another heater core, but the hole right here that this heater valve bolts into, there's a hole in that heater core where it slides in. That is not on other heater cores. If you buy a new one, it's not going to fit right, and it's not going to have that hole. You can't put the heater control valve back in, regardless of how well it worked or not. And I did find like a factory replacement one of these, but it was like 320 bucks, so it's just like crazy. So I spent a few hours on it, saved myself 300 and some odd bucks. For what it's worth, even though we don't use heaters a lot in Arizona, it's just principle. It's just about the principle to me of fixing it. But I do believe in talking about your mistakes too. You know, I'm not just Mr. Fix Everything and never have any mistakes. You remember how I had this piece of trim right here? So if you will remember, this curved piece of trim on the back glass was missing over on this side, but I did find it in the trunk. All right, so this was the only piece of trim that I have that's missing, and I found it in the trunk. And the other day, I went to go look for it. It was not there. So I was pretty upset that I lost this piece of trim. I said, how could this happen? You know, there's a big old rust hole in the trunk that it probably fell through. And I was right. I was riding my bike around in my neighborhood, and I found that piece of trim. Oh yes, I found it. But it's been ran over about 10,000 times, so I don't know if I can save that. It will never look right even if I did pound it out. So kind of mad at myself for that rookie mistake of leaving it in the trunk and having it fall out the rust hole in the trunk. And I mean, at least I found it, but it doesn't even matter if I found it because I can't use it. So if anyone has one of those for a flat top, it can't be for a bubble top. Even 4-doors sometimes were bubble tops. They don't have the same trim. Only the flat tops had that trim. So if anyone has that, please let me know. I'll buy it from you. Make mistakes. Well, there's no use crying over spilled milk, but sometimes I cry over spilled milk, man, you know? God. So we are back in business. We have the blower motor fan resistor hooked up. This gives you your different speeds. We got the door hooked up right here that controls your heat vent right there. We got the nicely preserved defrost ducts hooked up. There's also a cable in here that controls the heater control valve. That's hooked up. It's all bolted back together. I got my heater hoses hooked back up, and I don't know, I want to say these are the originals because it says Dayco heater hose 5/8. I don't know, these look very factory to me. If they're not, they're very early replacements. And I had to take them out of their original holders because when I did this fix, in order to get them off the end of the heater core, I had to slice them with a razor blade so that they would come off the heater core so I didn't break the neck of the heater core. Well, that shortened them up, obviously. Had to cut them past where I razor bladed it. So yeah, they're a little shortened up. You know, it's fine, and they're not even dry rotted, which is odd to me. And you know, you say, well, why didn't you get new ones? Why didn't you get new ones? 3 to 4 foot of 5/8 and 3 to 4 foot of 3/4 hose is probably close to 20 bucks now, honestly. And yeah, those weren't dry rotted and they're working and they're original, so whatever, put them back on, just run with it, it's fine. But a little more exciting news, we have a box from Classic Industries. How is it they say to use razors to open boxes? Always point it towards yourself and pull it as fast as possible. I don't know. Dad needed a glove box for his 60 El Camino. This is his glove box door, or his glove box assembly. Dome light lenses. Oh, my trunk lock assembly. My wiper arm, my stainless steel wiper blade that goes on the wiper arm, and my refills, my blade refills. This is a brand new wiper arm. You can see I have them laid out. You can see that the factory one is longer than the one they sent me. They should all be the same. All the windshields are the same. I mean, it's just like, you know, it's gonna look weird on the car, but there we go. Uh-oh, it's raining. Oh, turn it off. Go back to its original position. Boom. Oh, it's raining real hard. Oh boy. Okay, off. Back to the original position. Boom. Perfect. Like clockwork, baby. Well, they look good. Look at that. So now, if you open up the front door, lights come on. Passenger door. Oh yeah. So I'm waiting for my sending unit to come in the mail and a few other things from Classic Industries, but there are still more things to fix. Can you believe it? All the work and fixing I've done to this car, and it literally looks no different. But that's old cars for you. I mean, you just pour your heart and soul into them and you feel like you get nowhere sometimes. I want to put the driver's side lock on. They took it off and it was in the glove box. You know, it's all there, the lock and the key. It's not broke or anything, so maybe we can get that back on. And another issue that I've always had was that this window never would go fully up and down. The passenger side window, it would only go to like here. Well, there's 2 holes here and 2 holes here that shouldn't be there, but they spot welded the mounts to the frame that actually go on the track. So the window doesn't go all the way up and down the track because the spot weld snapped off. So maybe I can fix that so the window rolls up and down as it should. I want to put the trunk lock on. This is going to take a little bit of effort because, I mean, this was totally unnecessary. I don't know why they did this. All you got to do is drill it out. But instead of doing that, they bent it up. I mean, they just tore this hole completely up, but maybe I can heat it up, bend it back. Alright, well, we got it in, we got it bent out as good as we can. I'd say that doesn't look too terrible bad. I didn't want to keep bending on this because it's like a tab and I don't want to break it. They tore it up so bad, I'm scared I'm going to break a piece of that off. So yeah, I did the best I could, and yeah, it's nice and tight in there. It's not all loose and wobbly. So yeah, I'd say that was a successful mission. I got this lock in and it's all working and stuff, so there we go. Phone cut out because it was too hot. So I finished up the welding and I put it back in. You can see those spot welds right there where I welded it. Screwed it back into the track, and now we have a window that works. It wouldn't go up all the way before. It would hang up like right there. It wouldn't go up, but now she goes up all the way. Just shut it. There you go. Got yourself a working window. So I'm chasing down the electrical problem that I've been having with this car. I put my new headlight switch in and I still don't have key off power to my dome lights. See that? How I don't have power, and then I do, and then I don't. So this connector right here is junk, so I'll put a new connector on it, and I'll sand that off, and that should fix our problem. So when I touch this to that, I should get dome lights. There you go. Alright, we can put it back together now. So we're coming down the home stretch on where I want this 60 Impala to be. I'm working on the headlights right now, and I had to take these 2 headlight buckets off to get these on, but I got the headlight retainers in that screw in and out for your adjustment. Boom, boom. I got the ones in over here. Boom, 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 boom. I'm about to put the headlights in and the trim back on. And the last thing that I want to do to this car is, well, 2 of these hubcaps keep falling off, so I might just bend the tongs out so they fit in there tighter, because even at like 5 miles an hour they come off, but that's not a big deal. I want to put exhaust on the car. I have these Flowmaster Flow FXs that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace, and if I take the mufflers down to this shop in town, they said they'll do the exhaust with my mufflers for 450 bucks, which is not bad considering the place I usually take my cars to said that they would do it for 600, which is like, I don't know, seems kind of high for me supplying the mufflers. And then I feel that I've taken the car as far as I personally want to take it. I guess the best way to describe what I feel I'm doing here to this car specifically is preservation instead of restoration. I'm making all the factory stuff work as it should. If I were to go any further, like, you know, if you want to put new rubbers on it or if you wanted to paint it, well, then you're looking at a full restoration, and that's like a whole different ball game, you know what I mean? So it's like a fine line, you know, where I'm trying to walk. It's like in the perfect condition to drive it, to enjoy it, to not worry about parking it somewhere and getting it dinged up, worry about the seats, worry about stains, but it's just like got the cool look. Like, it's got the cool factor, but you don't have to worry about driving it. So dang, we got a lot done in this video. We freaking moved mountains. We set the dwell at 30 degrees. We set the timing. We tuned the engine so it runs a lot better, runs dang near perfect. Checked the back bearing and greased it. Didn't need to be replaced, thankfully. We're able to grease it and keep going on the road. Fixed the 2-speed wiper motor. Fixed the clock. Sold the first gen Cummins, the very first fly and drive that I did from Iowa to here. So that was a big win. Fixed the radio. We're able to put a new speaker in it, new antenna in it, let it run a little bit, crackles, pops, plays real low, but the radio does work. So I consider that a win. Fixed the dome lights, put new lenses in them. So now when you open the door, the dome lights work. Lubed up the speedometer, took the speedometer all apart, even though I can't get the speedometer itself to function because the spring is jacked up, still lubed it up, and the odometer portion of it does work. So it's kind of a half of a win, but welded the gas tank up, and I also put some gas tank sealer putty on it, put the gas tank back up in there and strapped it into the frame, so even if those straps want to give way, it still can't sag down. Soldered up the heater core, made sure it didn't leak, put that all back in, hooked the original heater hoses back up, all the heater functions work, defrost, all the arms, heater, control valve, all that's working, so that's a win. The fan speeds work, all the air doors work, good to go. New wiper blade, 2 new inserts, put the door lock cylinder on, straightened out the trunk and put the trunk lock cylinder in, so it works with a key instead of having to jam a screwdriver in it every time you want to open up the trunk. Fixed the passenger side window, and it does what it's supposed to do now. Fixed the key on power problem that I was having an issue with the whole way back. New headlight adjusters, so now the headlights aren't going every which way, all kinds of different directions. Last thing that I want to do to this is put exhaust on it, but there's really not much to film there. You hand it to the shop and they do it, and then you get it back and it's done. So I'll probably show it after it's on, you know, just to show you what it sounds like and everything. Just 2 more things, guys. Hold on, just bear with me. Dad and me are going to be at the Duct Tape Drags September 30th of this month for the car show. Saturday, September 30th, Tucson Dragway. Be there, be square. We're going to be hanging out with the Impala and the 46 International. And lastly, thank you guys for 100,000 subscribers. The play button came, so watch Dad and me and my wife open it together. So we're going to end off this video with something special. A little gift from YouTube. I know we hit 100,000 subscribers not too long ago, but it doesn't really count until you get the play button, right? So we're going to open it up right here for the first time.
Exciting.
If I've ever seen one.
Don't know if you've ever seen
I don't
one?
know, I might have.
Oh.
Is it upside down?
Ready?
Go ahead and...
3, 2, 1. Oh. Woo. Oh.
It's a ladder.
Congratulations on your subscriber milestone. We are honored to take part in recognizing your achievement and want your experience to be exceptional. This award was inspected and packaged with great care by Rick. I guess a guy named Rick works at YouTube too.
Oh, it's me. I made it up and sent it to him.
Then we got a letter. There it is.
That's definitely the play button. I've seen that a few times.
Look at that.
Do you remember your first subscriber? I think it was my mom. Your 100th or your 1000th? Chances are you do, and we know that you'll definitely remember your 100,000th subscriber. Your fans may have found you while searching YouTube, learned about you through a friend, or maybe you showed up as a recommended video. No matter how they came to your channel, your audience stayed and their numbers increased because of you and the community you've built. We're proud to honor your impressive milestone for reaching 100,000 subscribers with the Silver Creator Award. Congratulations. We know that you have many more stories to share with your community, and we know your fans can't wait for you to amaze them even more with your commitment and creativity. So keep creating, keep building. We can't wait to see what you'll do next, and we're here to support you along the way. And who knows, when you reach your 1,000,000th subscriber, we may just write to you and ask, do you remember your 100,000th subscriber? Sincerely, Neil Mohan, YouTube CEO.
Wow, that's awesome.
take it out of his little perch. Well, there it is.
Congratulations, son.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Well, it's our channel, you know.
I know it, but you do a lot. You do most of the work.
Wow. Look at that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for always watching and subscribing and leaving feedback in the comments. It's because of your guys' continued viewing support that this award even came in the mail. So we appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you. Wasn't that a goal this year that you wanted to get 100,000?
Yeah. That was actually a goal. By the end of this year, I wanted to hit 100,000, and it's halfway through September, and we're at, I think, almost 120 now.
Wow.
So yeah, no, we're cruising right along. So.